Nothing has changed except we now call it government. Instead of calling it a king or a pope or a priest king, we now call it a government. The authority's been diffused a bit into multiple people that call themselves members of the government, and the subjects are just called the citizenry, and it's ruled by violence in the same way, with the same set class of people who are willing to take orders and do whatever violence they're commanded to do to keep the other slaves in line. Nothing has changed from the old world order to the new world order. So when I put this I always put quotes around the word new in New Age movement because it's a very old paradigm. There's nothing new in it. It's a religion just like every other cultural religion has been. It's a framework for control. And many researchers on the topic have called it the last cul-de-sac before the gold mine, meaning a dead end kind of with no outlet, which it retards the flow of real information and it retards the flow of true spiritual awakening. And like you said, David, the people who gravitate toward this movement have good intentions, and they just want things to work out, and they want a savior, and this is their savior. The savior is the New Age movement. The savior is meditating for peace instead of actually teaching the true difference between the non-aggression principle and self-defense principle combined versus the violence ideology. Instead of really trying to hammer that home into people, I can't be forceful with my ideas and tell people that they believe in nonsense if they believe in statism, which is essentially just a euphemism for slavery. That would make people feel uncomfortable. I can't be aggressive like that. I have to be passive and let them have their belief system. That's a big part of this belief system called the New Age movement. I mean, we could look at specific deceptions that are contained in this movement and break them down. You look at the idea that, you should never pay attention to anything that's negative. Ignore the negative. Don't look at that. That's going to make you upset, and that's just going to bring on more of the negative. And people actually believe this. They actually really deeply, genuinely believe that if you pay attention and learn about the negative things that are going on in the world to a point where you really have a good handle on all the different multifaceted methodologies of control, of pollution, of dumbing people down, of looking at GMOs, looking at poisons in food, chemicals in the water, in the air, etc. Okay, they'll say, don't look at all of that, and certainly don't try to resist all of that. See, it's about not taking action and not resisting. But the first thing they try to get you to do is to ignore anything that's so-called bad or negative. All right, so. And I'm not saying there aren't negative things, and if you get too focused on them, if you get obsessed with them, yes, it can be draining. It can be devastating. If you're just focusing on that and not being effective by trying to combat it and do something about it that is positive. Okay, there has to be balance here, and I'm not telling people just go and look into the abyss and do nothing else. You have to be aware of that abyss, that deep darkness that's here with us. But not be obsessed with it, okay, and make that the focus of everything in your day and in all of your energy.
Well, it's like you said before, it absolutely has to be based from a point of view of balance, and I think that because this is the way I explain it to people, and that is that because of the amount of this corruption and tyranny and greed and what you would call darkness or evil, to use that language, because we see so much of that running rampant, what we're seeing here is signs that we need to address the core problem. It'd be like if your body just suddenly starts showing signs of weakness or illness, you might want to go and check out and see if there could be a cause that's there, some kind of a disease or some kind of an ailment or an injury even that you need to address. You could say, you know what, I don't really want to pay attention to that because it's killing my Zen thing, man. It's killing my mojo. It's breaking down my spirit. But really, if you think about it, it's just going to get worse if you don't address it.
That's exactly right. See, it's the exact opposite. If we don't pay attention to what's going wrong, Okay? We're never going to get down to the root causal factor that led to the problem to begin with, and therefore we're not going to be in an empowered position to reverse the problem and cure it and solve it. Okay? So New Age deception of ignore the negative is trying to convince people that we're giving power away to something that's harmful simply by putting our attention upon it to become aware of it and how it works. Nothing could be farther from the truth. By putting our attention upon it, we're not giving power to it. We're empowering ourselves to understand the root causal factor of the problem and therefore to put ourselves in an empowered position to solve the problem. It's the exact opposite of what the New Age community often tells us. That, they say you should never pay attention or talk about the negative. As a matter of fact, the negative should be something that we're trying to make people aware of, and then getting them down to what the causal factor. Recognize, hey, that negative manifestation, that's a symptom. Do you want to know why it's there? Well, you got to go deeper than the symptom, and you got to get down to that causal factor by looking at, hey, acknowledge this is what's going on. This is real. We need to reverse this. And when you put your attention on the negative, you're seeing what it really is. You're seeing the causal factors. That gives you the ability to protect yourself against it, mitigate its harmful effects, and maybe even avert them and reverse them entirely and come up with a solution. So, this idea of ignore the negative, nothing could be further from the truth. And all that, to be honest, all that really is that's choosing to remain unconscious of how something works. And that comes from fear.
Oh, exactly. I had an incredible example of that pop up for me not long ago. I remember speaking to somebody and the situation that was taking place in Syria had come up. And also we brought into it Palestine and whatnot and just some of the stuff going on. And it just came up in conversation. And the person, was very much minded or very much in the New Age way of thinking and very good person. But they actually told me that, because I said, well, what about these women and children, these defenseless, innocent people that are being killed en masse because of this? And actually, our tax dollars are contributing to that. And I started bringing these things up. And they're like, well, you know what? This is just something that's part of this reality. We're at this stage of growth in this particular school, and those children and those souls, they knew what they were getting into, and they chose to come here to have that experience. And we can't interfere with that process. And they started going on this whole thing, and I think I sat on the floor with my jaw just open because I didn't even know how to respond right away because it just shocked me so greatly that they could even say that.
I want to come out and just be just take a direct, hardcore left hook at this, okay, and just be callous, if I will, if I may.
Oh, please.
Okay, well, let me tell you what that dynamic really is, and you could tell, let the person hear this, please, by all means. It's called willful ignorance that is derived from the fear of owning one's personal responsibility that ultimately comes from being a coward, knowing that they're a coward, and having self-loathing as a result of that deep subconscious knowing, okay? That's where that comes from. Now, if that's the psychological breakdown of what's actually going on in people's mind who think like that, and they try to euphemize it and give it this nice little label called, I'm a New Age thinker. I am a new thought person, okay? When all they really are is a coward who knows they're a coward, who hates themselves deep down inside, and who, as a result, will refuse to own their personal responsibility to do something and will willfully choose to ignore something that is evil and running amok in the world. That's what that person is. That's what everybody who thinks like that is. Okay?
I couldn't agree more.
Now, what have I just described? I have just described a psychological and spiritual child. That's what that all those factors, all those personality traits, all of those psychological characteristics that I just described are the hallmarks of psychological and spiritual infancy. So we're looking at child issues. These are issues that are deeply embedded in the subconscious mind, okay? that have kept the people like this in a state of childhood at a psychological and spiritual level. And what a lot of my new work is going to focus on, now I'll only hint at it a little bit tonight because I want to get back to some of the New Age deceptions. But going forward, a lot of the work that I'm going to be doing is going to be dealing with subconscious issues of abandonment, childhood abandonment issues that we've never dealt with fully, that we've never really gone deep into, because it's such shadow material that many people want to run away from and they don't want to confront head on. It's some of the most disturbing material that is in the human psyche. Okay? And because we don't want to do that cleansing work, dealing with abandonment issues, and these are multifaceted issues, all we really need to do is just compare what we just talked about here with a person deeply ensconced in the New Age thought, in the New Age religion, saying evil should just be allowed to go on unchecked because it's all just an experience, and souls have made this choice to experience this at a soul level in some past life that we don't even know exists or not, okay? Which I do believe past lives and future incarnations do exist personally, but I certainly do not believe that we are here to just experience pure evil unchecked.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. I don't think that's what the learning experience we're here to experience on Earth is about. Pardon me for not getting on board with that, but I just think that's a ridiculous notion.
Yeah, our experience here has been hijacked. If you
that's
look
right.
at it like that, and we're part of it. We're actually complicit with that hijacking.
People like this are feeding into that very hijacking. Exactly. And that's a slave who wants to remain a slave. Yeah. And I don't really care who hears that as harsh. For people who know what my tact has been, they know I don't pull any punches and I don't sugarcoat words. I'm going to tell it like it is. And if you're offended by that, people should get as offended as they want by that. It's a slave who doesn't want to rebel against their slavery. And you know what? If you've come here on the earth now in this time, do you know what you've really come here to do? You didn't come here to experience evil, run amok, and unchecked. You came here to participate in a slave rebellion. That's what you spiritually came here to do. And you've been hijacked from that plan by the New Age movement. And the New Age movement was put there by the dark occultists who are in control of this planet, who are really ultimately running the plantation and keeping the slaves. They're the people who have put that ideology in your head, and you don't even understand that. These people don't even understand that the very slave masters of the plantation that they are on have given them their belief systems. They've given them their religions to control their mind and keep them a slave and get them to say ridiculous things like, we should never rebel against slavery, and it's just an experience and it was all agreed to. Well, you know what? I don't recall ever agreeing to be a slave held against my will. This is a captive situation. This is a hostage situation. Earth and humanity are in a hostage situation. For people who don't understand that, you're completely asleep. 100% totally asleep. This is a hostage situation that we are in.
Wow.
And
that's,
you know what?
Yeah.
We are here to lead the rebellion against this plantation called life on Earth right now. Okay? You were spiritually put here to lead a rebellion against slavery. And the New Age movement has done a beautiful job hijacking that rebellion, a beautiful job. But to go back into this dynamic that I'm going to be talking about more and more, I'm going to be getting into how this all ties in with deeply seated in the subconscious mind, childhood abandonment issues. And then a lot of my work is going to focus on what I call cosmic abandonment issues, that humanity as a whole, in the aggregate as a species, is suffering from ancient, embedded abandonment issues from our inception, our origins as a species, from deep in human antiquity. We are wrestling with cosmic parental abandonment issues, which again, that's just a little hint here today. I'll be getting into it more on future shows, and I'll of course be getting into it in future videos that I do. But when we come back after the break,